Okay, welcome one and all. This is the regular board meeting of the Board of Directors of the East Bay Regional Park District on September 20, 2022, and we are commencing the meeting a little late at 1:20. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll of the board?
Yes, President Coffey. Director Wasby.
Here.
Director Rosario.
Here.
Director Lane.
Here.
Director Eccles.
Here.
Director Wieskamp. Director Corbett.
Here.
And President Coffey.
Here.
I know Director Wieskamp is here. Maybe her volume is off. General Manager Landry.
Here.
Deputy General Manager Alvarez.
Here.
Deputy General Manager O'Connor. General Counsel Burgo.
Here.
AGM Cook.
Present.
AGM Chief Giabaro. AGM Kelchner.
Present.
Acting AGM Gorgian. Early. AGM Casabon. AGM, Acting AGM Castile.
Present.
CFO AGM Anker.
Present.
And did I say Chief Giabaro? Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
I already did him. We're all here.
All right, all present and accounted for. Did Director Wieskamp chime in?
No, she's here. I just,
Okay, so we'll record her as present.
yes.
So I'm going to ask Director Wasby to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands
Under God. For all.
Thank you, Director Wasby. I'm going to ask Director Eccles to give us our Native American acknowledgement this afternoon.
Thank you. The East Bay Regional Park District's headquarters is located within Huchian territory on the unceded lands of the Ohlone Choctaw-speaking peoples, who have continuously lived upon this land since time immemorial. The land now encompassed within the boundaries of the East Bay Regional Park District are the ancestral territory of the Ohlone, Bay Miwok, and Delta Yukon. Today's Ohlone, Bay Miwok, and Delta Yukon people are thriving, vital members of the Greater Bay Area community. They remain intrinsically connected to the land they have stewarded since time immemorial. So please join us in recognizing and honoring this land and their ancestors, elders, descendants, and all other members of their communities.
Thank you, Director Eccles. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
That was Director Lane and moves, and Director Rosario seconds. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
As President Coffey, Director Wasby.
Aye.
Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
Director Corbett.
Aye.
Director Eccles.
Aye.
And President Coffey.
Aye. Thank you. Today's meeting is held pursuant to the Brown Act as amended by AB 361. Board members and staff and the public may participate via phone or video conferencing. We wanted to mention that the board and the district is proud to celebrate National Hispanic Heritage Month, which is rooted in all Latin American countries from September 15 to October 15. The 2022 Hispanic Heritage Month national theme is Unidos, inclusivity for a stronger nation. The Park District is committed to enhancing diversity, equity, and inclusion, and making our agency welcoming and reflective of the communities we serve. We have begun distribution of lapel pins celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month as of September 8. Thank you to Monica Hernandez Juarez for creating the concept for the Hispanic Heritage Pin, and Hillary Van Austin for designing the pin. Pins were distributed to staff coordinated by Public Affairs, Precious Shelton. Pins were ordered for full-time staff, but we have plenty if you need more or seasonal staff are interested. Please email requests to publicaffairs@ebparks.org. With that, we'll move to public comments. Madam Clerk, could you describe the process we have for submitting public comment?
Yes, President Coffey, members of the public can email myself, Yolanda Burial Knight, at yburial@ebparks.org via voicemail at 510-544-2016, where we will transcribe your message and give it to the board, or simply by joining the meeting via the Zoom link, which is listed on the agenda and is posted on the district's website. Public comments will not be read at the meeting, but any written emails or transcribed voice messages will be included in the final board packet. All comments and letters received before the deadline yesterday, 3 p.m., have been distributed to the board and will not be read at this meeting.
Okay, so we did get one public comment by email that I'm aware of by Scott Bartlebow, addressing issues that came up involving bikes at our executive committee meeting.
Yes, I do see Scott Bartlebow has come into the meeting.
So if you're in our audience by Zoom and want to make a public comment on an item not on the agenda, use the raise hand Zoom device. And if you're in the room, okay, we have one person in the room.
Yeah, Renee is in the room. So far I just see one hand raised. Giving everyone else an opportunity to do so. Do you want to start with speaker in the room?
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
Renee,
Thank you.
you have 3 minutes. Is that on? Just the little green light should come on. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Renee Patterson and I'm admin analyst in operations here at Peralta Oaks. I want to say to the board that people are still unhappy about the outcome of the telecommunication grievance process and also how the telecommunication policy was arbitrarily changed. When I say that people are unhappy, I really mean they're unhappy because some of them might be too scared to come to a board meeting or to talk through Zoom. But they do talk to all the staff talk to each other. And I have heard the gamut from this whole thing makes me sick to one person said to me, I want to die. I mean, that was kind of scary, but those were her words. And so I think that you really need to take this seriously, even if we're sort of in a standby mode while we're waiting for things to happen or something. I hope you're taking this seriously because people are really unhappy. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you, Renee. Our next speaker is going to be Dawn. Dawn, you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Dawn Stevenson, and I'm an administrative specialist at the district. My public comments are regarding sunsetting the telework policy, which is not on the agenda. A recent study by Stanford economist Nicholas Bloom and his co-authors found that many American bosses have seen the writing on the wall and recognize the ample benefits of allowing remote work and have given their employees what they want. Flawed decisions can hurt an organization. The study also measured manager social skills and found that was a very robust predictor of worker attrition. And this will be something you will regret. Output management, how much you produce and at what quality, sets clear targets and goals, assessing overall performance. Another huge gain from telework has been forcing more companies to adopt output management. It gives workers more flexibility to do their work where, when, and how they believe they are most productive. Park District staff are known for getting the job done, especially in unusual times. Park District staff love what they do. You need to understand and allow them the freedom, trust, and respect to do their job how they see fit. You don't need to monitor the staff. We know what to do, regardless of the location. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you. And lastly, Scott Bartlebaugh. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Hello, I'm Scott Bartlebaugh, Advocacy Director for Bicycle Trails Council of the East Bay. I thank the directors, general manager, and staff for the opportunity and submit public comment on behalf of the hundreds of Bicycle Trails Council of the East Bay members and thousands of cyclists in the East Bay seeking trail experiences. At the September Executive Committee meeting, President Coffey commented that enforcement has been the fundamental problem with respect to cyclists building unsanctioned trails and unauthorized riding of sanctioned trails. Directors Lane and DiRosario concurred. Is it not a much larger problem that the district relies on a blanket prohibition of bike access to narrow trails? Is it not a much bigger problem that the district has failed to deliver meaningful access despite 3 decades of advocacy within the public process for access to narrow natural surface trails? Crockett Hills is the exception. It was the single most meaningful response, but that was 7 years ago. Crockett Hills does not experience an unsanctioned trail issue, and encounters with hikers are predominantly amiable. President Coffey has cited Crockett Hills as a success, and Director Rosario has cited it as a possible model for future trails. Enforcement is not a part of the fundamental solution at Crockett Hills. Access is the fundamental solution, not enforcement. Let me say that again. Access is the fundamental solution, not enforcement. A single park in the district with meaningful access is not reasonable and only provides for one type of trail experience cyclists have been peacefully advocating for. Meaningful access is needed across the district in a variety of parks, but not all parks. In addition to Crockett Hills, Briones, Tilton Wildcat, Chabot, Guerin Mission, Pleasanton Ridge, Del Val, Contra Loma, Black Diamond, and Morgan Territory are some reasonable parks to look at more closely for expanding bike access to narrow trails. Prohibition and enforcement were never a solution to protect resources and provide balanced recreation. Enforcement is a last resort when positive access policy, modern design, and trail management strategies fail. We ask that you reconsider what the fundamental solution really is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank
Is
you.
there any further public comments? I don't see any hands raised.
I don't see any additional hands raised either, President Coffey. We don't have any more public comments.
Okay, so we will move to the consent calendar. Have we any requests from the public for public comment on consent calendar items?
Just that one for, I don't know if he's going to comment. He's still here, Scott Bartlebaugh.
That's on an action item, or I'm sorry, it's on one of the
Oh, I have it on the wrong place.
agenda items.
Okay. No, we don't have any public comments.
All right,
Thank
and I
you.
do
Sorry
not
about
see any hands, so we'll proceed with board comment on agenda items, any items to be pulled. I had questions on 2 items that were responded to, so I'm good.
Directors are your,
Yeah, I have a question, item O. Go ahead with that question or?
yeah, the one on.
Yeah, go ahead.
fire.
Okay.
Yeah, they did respond to you, just
Oh, they
haven't
did? I
seen it,
didn't-
but that's okay. You can
Okay, I
ask
didn't
the
see it.
question. Mhm.
Item O is the authorization to extend professional services contract to EKI for stormwater management at Anthony Chabot. My only question is this going to interfere, is the fire department pilot project going to interfere with that, with the management of the stormwater assessment there?
President Rosario,
Chief of
Matthew
Steward-
Grawl is going to respond to that.
Okay,
Yeah, Chief of Stewardship, Matt Grawl. Thanks, Director Rosario, for the question. No, we've carefully coordinated this with the fire department, this work. And so it's in an area of the club that won't interfere with the stormwater management. And if we do need in the future to address stormwater from the pilot project, we could route it through the stormwater treatment system. So it being there could be a benefit to the overall site. So thanks for the
Great.
question.
Great, thank you. That was my only concern. Thank you.
Okay. Director Waspy,
Yeah, may I comment on Q and R?
certainly.
All right, thank you. The item Q and item R are both purchases of chippers throughout the district. And I first off want to compliment staff for putting pictures in. I'm always good at pictures. I can envision these giant chippers. Boy, they're big and do a lot more work. And the comment was about the sustainability of these chippers. They use diesel, but we'll be using renewable diesels, which I support. But I think the key issue here is that, you know, for some folks that don't understand, when a tree falls and somebody goes out there and cuts it down, the past practice of the district used to be cut it up, limb it up as best you can, throw it in a dumpster, take it to a landfill, and then have it create a bunch of greenhouse gases. When you have a chipper, you eliminate you're talking about diesel and a chipper. You're eliminating the truck that has to haul that thing to wherever the offloading dumping place is, or hauling it to a landfill. All of those costs are taken. And you know what happens to a tree when it falls in the wilderness? It hits the ground, it decays and replenishes the new soil and the new trees that are coming behind it. So chipping does pretty much the same thing. It's part compost, part mulching. It's very valuable. So I hope we continue to do this. I hope we're almost there, aren't we? I know we used to borrow chippers and have to drive them all over the town. I don't know how many we have throughout the district, but I sure appreciate the program, and I think it helps us out a lot.
Jim O'Connor, Deputy General Manager. Director Waspy, I really appreciate the comments. We're still a long ways from getting as much equipment as we can to eliminate the transport of equipment back and forth across the district. But just to answer your question about the diesel, renewable diesel is the only diesel we're providing at this point. So all of our equipment that uses diesel fuel will use the renewable diesel.
Great.
Director Corbett.
If there's no other questions, I'd be glad to make the motion.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
All right, I'd like to take the motion that we move forward on these items this afternoon.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Director Eccles, second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, President Coffey. Director Waspy, Director Lane,
Aye.
Director Wieskamp,
Aye.
Director Corbett,
Aye.
Director Eccles,
Aye.
Director Rosario,
Aye.
and President Coffey.
Aye,
Unanimous approval.
we have approved the consent calendar as presented. So I am really pleased to move us to item 2A, update on board member interests identified at the July 22, 2022 study session. I wanted to say up front that I very much appreciate the board packet material. It was very well presented and very useful, and probably a little package I'll have at my hand throughout the next year or two. So with that, I'll turn it over to for a presentation.
Good afternoon, President Coffey, members of the board. I'm Claire Griffin, Management Analyst in the General Manager's Office. Let me pull up the presentation real quick. All right. At the July 22nd board study session, each member provided information on their individual interests, and staff has conducted an analysis of these interests you shared, including status items on each update. And this update has been provided by each division. And so big thanks to everyone who's provided help on this. Today, I'll provide a brief overview of the types of interests shared by the board and provide an opportunity for the board to ask questions or provide feedback. In previous years, the Board of Directors has held 5 workshops throughout the year focused on a variety of topics. At the beginning of each year, the board would identify individual interests and narrow these interests based on areas of consensus. The top interests were incorporated in the Park District's performance plan as part of the annual budget planning process. This year, the board has conducted 4 study sessions so far on items like redistricting and land acquisition. Unlike previous years, the board also heard from each AGM earlier this year on their division's priorities and also the challenges in the context of the 2023 budget planning process, which provided context to the board to have a conversation on July 22nd to outline their top interests. Staff recorded these interests, conducted an analysis, and provided an update on the status of each item, which is attachment B in your agenda. The status update provides an additional context for each board's stated interests, identifies whether it's on a current Park District work plan, and notes any challenges or constraints preventing further movement on the item. Today is an opportunity for the board to hear about the analysis and ask clarifying questions. We're bringing this item to you now so we can incorporate your feedback as part of the budget planning process for 2023 between now and December. So on to a bit of the analysis. The board identified 69 distinct interests at their study session in July, and just over half of those interests are related to district-wide initiatives, while just under half were ward-specific. Your various interests were also grouped into categories. The budget items include funding and staffing requests. Capital projects are projects costing more than $100,000, including trail connections, restoration, and development of parks and facilities. 7% of the items require the acquisition of land. Policy objectives related to advocacy and internal policy development include trail user policies and updates to park district plans and guidelines that already exist. Programs include workforce development, outreach and education, and ongoing implementation of established park district policies. Staff also analyzed the status of each of those 69 board interests and found that 78% of the items are either currently in progress or ongoing, which means they continue year after year. While 22% of the items are either not included on a current division work plan or have made previous progress but are on hold due to circumstances outside the park district's control. An example of a project that's on hold is the Dunsmuir to Chabot Trail, which is stalled while the city of Oakland pursues closure of the Chabot Golf Course landfill. We also looked at themes that emerged from those 69 interests, and there were 7 broad themes that came up. The most common theme that emerged from the interests was access, as 43% of the items were about increasing access to parks, which includes acquisition, trail connections, new parks, and expansion of existing parks, as well as accommodations for trail users. Climate smart stewardship includes not only ecosystem restoration, but also climate change mitigation, such as addressing wildfire and sea level rise, and operational sustainability programs, such as reducing waste and carbon emissions. Education and outreach includes community engagement, interpretive programs, and visitor centers. 11% of the items are related to increasing staff capacity, promoting green jobs, and developing our workforce. 10% are related to maintenance and operational needs. 6% are related to seeking funding for staff maintenance and projects, and a small percentage are related to governance items, which is internal policy development and implementation. An example of that is implementation of our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. Based on a voter survey conducted in November 2021, the top priorities for Park District funding, according to voters, included wildfire mitigation, stewardship, access, and operations and maintenance. Nearly 2/3 of the interests shared by the board in July fall into these top 4 categories, showing clear alignment with the voters. The other third of interests may still align with those priorities, but not the top 4 priorities shared by voters. Interests shared by the board are a crucial step in our 2023 budget planning process. which is underway and will be discussed at the Finance Committee in November before coming to the board for discussion and adoption in December. If there are interests the board would like to accelerate or ensure there are resources for, this is the time, because these will be considered as part of our budget planning process for 2023. Your feedback will also aid in managing staff capacity and future work planning, and can be incorporated into strategic planning and our upcoming master planning process. And you'll have an opportunity to see how the newly adopted capital improvement project prioritization criteria will help prioritize future work planning. Thank you for your time. We look forward to your feedback, and we want to hear what's of key interest to the board. I'm here to answer questions, and the AGMs are also here if you have questions related to items in their division.
President Coffey, if I may just, if you would indulge me for 1 second, I just
Please.
really wanted to acknowledge Claire and all of her hard work on this. As I think most of you are aware, Claire is very new to the district, and we gave her this just really straightforward project as her first task. And I just really want to commend her for just jumping in and just really doing a fabulous job of capturing what the board put forward in those workshops. So
I appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Thank you. And that's why I wanted to share that this was definitely a group effort.
Thank you. And I just want to say this is exactly the outcome that I wanted to have happen when I first discussed this process with the GM. And that is, our priorities aren't just sitting on a shelf somewhere. We're actually getting real-time feedback on them. Some of that feedback is positive. They're working on it. Some of it's, negative. No, it's on hold or it's not started, but at least we know. And we know how these various priorities are being addressed. So this is an opportunity for the board to comment or have questions on the status of some of these priorities. And after board comment, I know we have at least one public comment. So members of the board. Anyone want to go first? Director Lane.
Yeah, I guess my overall reaction to the presentation is the one I want to mention, and that is to congratulate the board on their interest in access. I think that meeting the public's desire to make use of our parks is really important, and that this also evidently refers to comments we've made about opening different land bank properties that we have. And so I'm really glad to see how you were able to categorize and pull things together, which is not the easiest, and that access was there on top, because I think that is a really important issue for all of our visitors. And of course, when it comes to access and opening new parts of the district, that also means we would need the staff to support that. So I want to congratulate everybody for focusing on access. And I may have something more later, but that's just a congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Other directors? Okay, Director Rosario, thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with Director Lane. Access, and I think this is a great transparent way for the board of directors to see where our interests and keeping track of our interest over time. And it goes in line with the recently approved equity in the CIP projects. And I think they go hand in hand. And it's valuable for not only us, but also the public. And so this is a tremendous amount of work, and I really appreciate it. And it helps me focus too. My ADD doesn't carry me out. So I have no questions about the process or what what you've captured. I think you've done a very good job of capturing what we were, or what I said anyway. So thank you very much.
Anything else? Nope. You're free to ask questions on specifics. Yeah.
I didn't mean right now.
Well, you know,
You know.
this will land a couple ways. There may be things you want to ask about now because everyone's in the room, or there may be very specific, a very specific status for a project that you can discuss at some point directly with the manager in charge of it. So I would leave it like that, Director.
Okay, well, I'll just, there are some specific things. I'm very concerned about our swim facilities, and we talk about addressing our swim facilities, and it's in progress, and we have some dates here, but you know, when I'm not being critical, but I would like to emphasize the importance of these facilities. So when we refer to Lake Anza, we talk about some, you know, things happen, block drainage, those things kind of happen. But then when the repair work is we lost a season last year in one of our most popular swimming areas. And then we suggest that the repair work is anticipated to begin in summer and early fall 2022. I wonder if that's happening. And then the swim complex is anticipated to open in 2023 season. I think that should be, I'd like a guarantee that it's going to open then. And I know lots of things happen, but we've got 9 months to, or no, not 9 months, whatever. It's a long amount of time. I mean, these are critical things in my opinion. And I think we really need to fix these. The Contra Loma, same thing. We lost a whole swim season at Contra Loma based on, well, we're trying to fix it. I think there's some sense of urgency to get these things going. This is a critical key portion of our outreach to communities, to, you know, provide swimming lessons. I mean, you know, we can go through the whole deal. The 5th largest cause of death among kids is drowning. Not that, I mean, we can teach people how to swim, things like that. So that and, oh geez. Well, that for now is what I'm really interested in is some more specific. I know it's in progress, but I'd like to feel a little more comfortable. I mean, if it's going to go to the back burner, then I think we ought to think of something else to do. But this swimming and lifeguarding program, I mean, we talk about, you know, the Park District is very proud, and I say it at every meeting, we provide jobs for youth. We say the line is we provide over 200 jobs for youth for summer. Well, 175 of those jobs are lifeguards. And if we don't have facilities, we can't hire lifeguards. So I think it's a really critical point, and we need to deal with it more than just we anticipate. That word really, I don't know.
Thank you, Director Rossby. That's great feedback. And we did hear from several of you specifically that this was a high priority for you. I'd like to hand it over to Acting AGM of Operations, Steve Castile, who may want to share a little bit more.
Great, thank you. Acting AGM of Operations, Steve Castile. Just wanted to thank you for your questions, Director Waspy. It is our intent to, you know, directly address a lot of the issues that you brought up. On Lake Anza, I know that we've been working very closely with stewardship and with MAST, and we've gone out and taken a look at the sites. We're going to be, you know, putting in budgetary items to address the aquatic weed issues that we've had out there and to remediate some of the ongoing issues such as the drainage and the shoreline along those areas to get that back up and functioning, hopefully by the beginning of this upcoming season. And then the other facilities also, we've been working with stewardship as well, taking a look at, you know, the different ways that we can try to control the blue-green algae as far as different applications that we've been doing. And the intent of everything is to try to get everything open as soon as possible for, you know, the swimming season so we can provide that, you know, amenities to the public again.
Thank you.
Elizabeth? Sure.
Yeah, so specifically on Lake Anza, because I had some questions about that, because I guess my question is, if you make all these repairs, is that really going to ensure that we can open in 2023? Because it seems like the main issue that's caused the lake to be closed is the blue-green algae and not, not these other things that also need to be done. And so what are we doing to ensure, I know we've got this oxygenation system in place, but it's not getting us to the place where we can actually make the water safe for people to swim or even dogs to swim. So, what are we doing to make sure that we can address the blue-green algae over the long run?
Yeah, I see Matt Growl actually, his face just popped up on the screen here, Christina. So if you, maybe Matt, do you want to go ahead and give some more specifics on what you guys are doing?
Thanks. Yeah. And so just want to clarify that over the last year or this summer, the Lake Anza was not closed because of blue-green algae this summer. It was more related to these maintenance issues with and it's been much better this year. So we had an issue with the first year of the oxygenation system. Once we started running it, we basically ran it too much and it stirred things up a little bit. And once we got in that situation, the lake got mixed and we had to wait for it to re-stratify again. That stratification is reestablished this year. And things have been much better with the algae. Now it's always a challenge. I mean, the same thing we've had with Temescal with the treatments, these things are cyclical, and sometimes the nutrients coming in overwhelm the ability of the system to manage that. But it's been much better over the last year, and the real issue has been more the area of the culvert and the south end of the beach and forming a quicksand situation that needed to be repaired. So that was a danger, and other of these maintenance issues. Now, one thing that we did have this year was the Azolla that came in and would have been an issue. We would have needed to remove that, but we are making progress on that. And I know Operations Steve can talk more about this as a budget request to get us some equipment that will make it easier for us to address those aquatic weeds. So that's something we're looking to address in the 23 budget, so we can better manage weeds at all of our lakes to make them, safe for swimming with if we have an aquatic weed issue. So that's one reason we're looking to acquire that equipment. So those are some of the quick things. I can talk more about blue-green algae specifically if there's other questions.
Yeah, well, a follow-up question on the Azolla, because I understand that the Azolla was beneficial in terms of keeping the blue-green algae under control. But so I guess that also takes me back to my question so last year, I understand it wasn't the blue-green algae specifically that was keeping the lake closed. But had there not been the Azolla, do you think that there would have been a blue-green algae issue, or do you think the oxygenation would have been sufficient to allow the lake to open? I know it's hard to speculate, but my questions are going towards some assurance that we can actually open for the 2023 season.
Yeah. I don't know that I have an answer to that question. I mean, the first part about the Azolla and the interrelationship there, we know it improved things this year. I mean, we've had the opposite effect in other lakes. I mean, at Temescal, where we controlled the nutrients really well, we cleared the lake, and then all of a sudden we had more aquatic weeds growing. So then we had to do more of this harvesting under contract. So the same, we've seen that when we get the nutrients more under control, often these other aquatic plants grow. If we manage them, we can try to prevent them in a way to prevent from increasing, because once the Azolla dies back and sinks to the bottom, that could be an additional source of nutrients. So I think by trying to remove them and manage the system better, we can reduce that nutrient cycling. And by reducing the nutrient cycling, we'll have it much more likely that we won't have these issues. And so I think that's what we're trying to implement, practices that will do that. We are doing this iteratively. One thing we haven't done as much at Anza is do more of the binding agents, because we did the oxygenation system in there instead. So at Temescal, we've put in Foslock and other things that will help bind nutrients in the bottom of the lake so they don't get mobilized into the water column. So that's something we could potentially try that at Anza in the future if needed. So we can ramp it up, but I think we're pretty confident in what we've done so far. But if the conditions change, we can step it up and try to do other additional measures.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Matt and Steve, for the presentation, for the answers. I know it's a complicated, difficult issue to address, and I do appreciate the work you all are doing on it.
Great. Thank
And
you.
I do want to ask about Anza and the handicapped accessible project. Is that completed?
The project is, we just did the final steps on that one, where we had put in the irrigation and the sod work this week. Actually last week, last Thursday. And so the pathways are in, the grass is in, the water's been turned on, and we're looking pretty good out there. You're welcome.
Dennis, did you want to keep going anymore or
No,
You're
let
fine?
somebody else go ahead. I have a couple more things.
Elizabeth? Any others?
No,
That's it?
I wanted to thank Claire for taking the lead on this. I love the way this is presented and with our specific priorities laid out and then the detailed grid on how each one is being presented. So thank you for your work on that. And thank
I
you.
can't hear anything.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
You just disappeared.
Okay, so what I was saying is that I was thanking Claire for her leadership on this and pulling it all together and how this, I think this format is fantastic in terms of having the priorities laid out for each board member and then having this grid of the status, the snapshot as of right now is very, very, very helpful. I love all the data. And it's good to know exactly where things stand. So I was thanking Claire and I was about to thank all of the staff because obviously everybody had to put input into this and give thought to this and make progress on these various things, or at least report on where they are. So really appreciate the work that went into this by everybody.
Also, I very much appreciated the work that went into analyzing how our priorities tracked with the public priorities. That was very interesting to see. I'm glad they track. they largely track. Democracy works.
How about that?
Director Lane, any comments or questions? You said you might have some more.
Well, I'm looking at some, a couple of the projects that are long term projects. And I really appreciate the way this is set up, addressing them, so we'll have some things addressed before it comes to budget time. But I'm looking at, I guess, the one that I'll mention right now is number 15, which was, and it's on page 179, complete Marsh Drive Bridge replacement on the Iron Horse Trail. The person who's going to be in Ward 6 after I'm departed is a man who's been very much involved in this project. And I guess I'm just going to say that this will not just lay fallow in terms of a direction from a board member, because this is completing the northern part of the Iron Horse Trail. And there are some major projects that are going to have to happen with that eventually, including a bridge over a railway. But there are steps that need to be taken, and there needs to be attention paid to this, such as making sure we have easements and we continue to have a high level of work and cooperation with Contra Costa Flood Control on this project, which is the lower Walnut Creek project. And completing the Marsh Drive Bridge is one that I think is very much in the works. But when I look at this, I'm looking at the land challenges north of the bridge. And I just wanted to alert you that John is going to be paying a lot of attention to this as well. He used to do a lot of running, and this was an area where he ran. And when we have gone out on tours, he's made an effort to get there and to pay attention to what is going on. So I appreciate kind of the start of this description here. And I hope that this is one which will get some attention so that we do have everything in place that we need as we have to address the larger projects.
Okay, thank you. Director Wieskamp or Corbett? Director Corbett, you go.
Okay.
Ellen, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. Every year, this is a great opportunity to get to know more about what we can continue to do to share services and open space and protect the environment for our surrounding areas. And this is it again. I just want to mention one little thing with regard to District 4. It's a great district with some really great park areas, being out in Alameda and taking a little hike around the old Naval Air Station just on Thursday. And the view across the bay really gives you a thought of what a special place in that district. But at the same time, it's very interesting how this particular district, of course, has the same populations as the other districts. It has just so much less parkland and open space land. And so I just hope there's an opportunity to have more discussion about this as we go through the year and make sure there's plenty of programs and opportunities for each district to have the opportunities and programs available for the people who live in those districts, and it's closer for them to get to those parklands. Of course, all of our parklands are open for everybody from all the other parklands, but some of them are just a little closer to where the folks live in our particular district. So it would be nice to have a little more conversation, because it's really a huge difference of numbers between the number of folks living in District 5, yet the amount of parkland is so much lower than other districts. But I'm always happy to let people from my district know all of the other parks that they can visit, once in the district and ones in all of yours. So just an opportunity to just talk a little bit more about how we had the services available for everyone. But thank you. Really appreciate working with the staff on this information.
Thank you, Ellen. Ann?
What came up in the last, to me, is water. Ye gods, there is a huge water issue. It's not just a matter of bloom. Obviously, over here in the valley, we have shadow cliffs that is just sad, sad, sad to go by. We had bloom out at Del Val, one side open at a time for swimming. I think we need to think about all agencies working together on a statewide level about the issue of water. I think you are all lucky who are going to be here next year. I think Olivia knows a great deal about water issues. And I know there's been discussion of the possibility of dealing with state water and the possibility of some kind of pipeline that could provide water to fill in the chain of lakes in the valley, plus with maybe a pipeline that could go to help shadow cliffs, both the lake itself and the back area that is a nature area. I don't say it's easy to do, and we're all forgetting, grazing is dependent on having grass enough for cattle. And if cattle are there, they're dependent on having water to drink. So again, I don't know how we want to go about pulling it all together, but I think one of the biggest issues is water. What we can do as an agency and with others. I don't know how much we can do, but I think we need to look at it very seriously. I thought this was a great way to pull things together and to remind us, looking at other people's lists, it's very helpful to remind you of things that you would like to have had too. So everybody did a great job, and staff, thanks so much.
Thank you. I have a number of questions on specific priorities or projects that I can direct to the lead division directly, and I don't need to take up board time on it. I do have one general question though, and that is a number of the items on hold. For instance, Point Pinole, the visitor center. And with prioritization of this proposed project plan, prioritization of this proposed project will be based on the capital project prioritization policy. This refers to the policy we just adopted. And my question is, how is that process going to work? So how is a future project like the Point Pinole Visitor Center going to proceed through that process? And it goes beyond just the Point Pinole project. It's just in general, how will we, I'd like to have an understanding of what the timing of that is
What
going to be.
page is that on our?
Well, I'm looking at item 30, page 113. And the last sentence there.
So, President Coffey, if I'm understanding your question correctly, tell me if I'm not. Just speaking more generically about things and how they get put into the work plan.
Into that process.
Yes. So, this is still a little bit of a work in progress. Right now, we're going through the very large list of projects and potential projects, and I believe staff has finished kind of scoring them with the prioritization criteria that you all adopted earlier this month or last month recently. And we are right now in the process of putting together our recommendations for you on what would come as your annual spending plan as part of the proposed budget. So you will see many of these projects in that proposed budget that is coming forward to you in the fall here.
Okay.
There are some projects, though, I will caution you, that are not even on that list, which, I mean, dredging of Lake Temescal is a great example. And so we're kind of working through that process and kind of what that's going to look like for future years and how brand new projects that aren't even in the work plan even get on there, even if it's for the out years. So just we'll kind of work through this with you through this first year and then have a little bit more of a robust 5-year capital program moving forward.
Okay, so for a project like, to now be specific, like the Point Pinole Visitor Center, that will be scored. And then when we start actually proceeding with the project at whatever stage it's at, will depend on its score and its score vis-a-vis other projects.
That and some other things that will definitely take into effect. And ultimately, it is up to the board. It's up to the board, no matter, even if a project were to score, lower than other projects, you all are the policymakers, and on an annual basis, as part of your spending plan, will give us direction on which items you want us to advance.
That sounds terrific. Thank you. Any other board comments or questions before we move to public comment? And if there are members of the public that want to speak, raise the Zoom hand. Director Lane?
Yeah, I'd like to bring up the item number 35, which is complete the Black Diamond Mines timber replacement project.
Yes.
When we were talking about the criteria for the CIP, I think a couple of us were concerned about this because it's an essential part of any real tour of Black Diamond Mines. And the focus was on fixing this section and not on the significance of being part of a very important public program. And so I would hope that as you do look at this, at the capital projects and at these, that you are sure, that you make sure you're talking to our naturalists and our recreation folks about what those needs are for these projects, because I felt like it didn't show up in the CIP discussion. And then I'm concerned about the answer here because I'm not sure whether the decision has been made about how to resolve this. So I don't, and maybe it has been, but I just haven't heard, because I'm not sure how you can have construction documents if you, if you haven't decided, which of the options you're going to follow to do the capital project. And, there have to be some options, but you don't want to do construction documents unless you've landed on what the solution will be.
And my memory is that project actually wasn't scored properly because the high score wasn't given for impact on surrounding
On the program.
programs.
Yeah, and I will speak on that scoring because we still are definitely tweaking that. And I'll let Lisa talk about the status of the project, the specifics. I do want to reassure you, Director Lane, that the staff has been very vocal out there about their desire to have this project. So I think I've been out there 3 times to tour it and for them to give their firsthand pitch, I would say, for moving this forward. So Lisa, do you have some more specifics?
Yeah, good afternoon. Lisa Gorgon, Chief of Design and Construction. Thank you for those comments. And when we initially were presenting the capital project prioritization criteria, and we, as part of our presentation, we sort of gave some examples of what the scoring would look like. And since then, we have gone through, as the general manager have said, and gone through and rescored, and that project in particular was identified as essential. So we are we will be moving forward with it. We actually have been doing work on it already, work where we didn't have to come for a budget request. So we have been advancing and have an idea of some different ways to remedy the situation. And one of the things that has come up just in it taking a little bit of time is the district now has authorization to utilize design build as a procurement method for contracting. This is an excellent project for design build because it's very difficult to design. As you saw with our previous Black Diamond Mine projects, there's so many unknowns. There's so many sort of hidden things. This isn't like a road project where you've got a typical standard that you build to. This is going to be an excellent project that we can advance using design build. And so we're looking forward to using that tool once we're able to do that in 2023. So we have a project manager, we're ready to go. So we're very excited.
That's good to know.
Good.
Okay, Madam Clerk, public comment.
My hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Director Corbett.
Yeah, just real quick. I was just hoping there is a document that shows the population per district and then the number of parks, the land, the open space, etc. And it sort of gives us the idea to see the difference between districts. And I'd like to be able to get a copy of that shared with all the board members. Would we be able to do that? The person who just spoke, she knows about that document.
Lisa
does.
Do you all have those?
Yeah, Director Corbett, this is Dr. Ana Alvarez, and I am going to be looking into your request. We're not quite sure, understanding what document you're referencing, but if the document exists, we'll make sure you get a copy, as well as your colleagues.
It exists. It was provided to me, so I would have it for my information. And I just think all the board members should have a copy of that so they can have an idea of, their population, their open space land, what's available in their districts and how it compares to other districts so we can all work together. It exists.
We think that was provided the board, Anna, in connection with our redistricting.
Okay, we'll take a look.
No. It was provided to me when we were just recently having the conversation about putting this data together. It's in my statement. The thing about population being different, and not being different, but the size and land being a little bit different from district to district. It's right in my statement.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when it was put together. That's when it was put together.
Okay, there will be follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, public comment?
That's
We have a
President
couple
Cook.
hands up.
Yeah, it's Scott Bartleball, followed by Kelly Abreu.
Thank you.
You have 3 minutes each. Scott. Can you hear me, Scott? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Scott Bartleball, Advocacy Director for Bicycle Trails Council of the East Bay. I appreciate the opportunity and I appreciate the large amount of information that was shared in the packet. This is very helpful to be able to see as a member of the public, to get a better idea on what the district is looking at and the breadth and variety of items that are on the list. Particularly, I was glad to see that there are items on there, one item addressing mountain bike access, and then items on there addressing e-bike access. I did see e-bike show up on 3 of the director's slides, so I would think that that should make that short list that was referenced that had interest by at least 3 or more board members, but I don't see it there. It was interesting to see the statistic today that 43% of the items are related to access. I'm very happy to see that. But what I wasn't recognizing, and it may be there, a strong focus and emphasis on reducing the cycle time to open land bank properties. And also specific focuses on reducing the barriers to narrow trail construction. I know the Trail User Working Group was oriented towards that, and that's one piece of it. But I think a stronger emphasis is needed in that area. I think discussions during the Trail User Working Group and during COVID highlighted how the public is really looking for more natural surface trails, narrow trails. And there have been comments by board members at the executive committee about needing more narrow trails in the Roddy Ranch discussion. And I'm not seeing that showing up in the list. And I know the list is not inclusive of everything that's going on, but I'm not getting that feeling from the list. I think the Robertson property was a good example of tools that are available to the district to open properties that are in land bank in a different way than has been typically done, that can provide public access with limited amenities and get the public out on those properties and able to enjoy them. And I would like the Park District to consider application of that at other properties, kind of as a different mode of operation compared to a full-blown land use planning process that gets into the finest of detail. Prioritization and timelines, sharing that when that comes around in the type of detail that's here would be very helpful. And I am out of my 3 minutes. I thank you for the time and the consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Kelly, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. It seems to me like we're looking at a nest, and there's a lot of eggs in here. And we need to remember that there's such a thing as a brown-headed cowbird, has 200 known hosts, and that's a brood parasite. So when somebody like me comes and points to an egg and says, what is this strange looking egg doing in this nest? It deserves an answer. And when I send in several communications to your staff, let's not pretend like your staff is listening and communicating. They're not. I'm asking about a parasitic project number 28 at Mission Peak. You know, it lists a certain project and it says that it's on hold. And I remember an approved project from 2015 with a draft EIR, with an EIR, with a parking management survey, with public meetings, with transcripts, with board approvals, with a budget of $1.5 million, and a lot of things, all dating back to roughly 2015 or so. Stacks of documents, all of that has gone missing. And what I see is this parasitic project that has suddenly appeared, but now this parasitic project is on hold. So 2 things. We need staff to communicate and respond to emails And let's do a little hunt. Go back and find where is the real egg? Where is the original project? Where is the $1.5 million? What is happening at Mission Peak when all of a sudden a parasitic project shows up mimicking the real authentic egg? You know, as biologists and naturalists, you guys should all be very familiar with this brown-headed cowbird and these parasitic hosts. And when you do this to projects, swap them in like magicians, swapping a flower for a rabbit on the hat. It's very strange, you know, and I'm very confused. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Well, if there's no other discussion or management comment, we can move on to the next item. Again, thank you very much for all of the fine work that you've done in presenting this and that the entire staff has done in getting the collecting this information for us. It's very, very useful. All right, that moves us to item 3, ASD Division, informational update on programming for improved Peralta Oaks North Project, District Administrative Headquarters, or what I'm now referring to as our new public safety building.
All right. Good afternoon. Lisa Gorgon, Chief of Design and Construction. Good afternoon, President Coffey, Board of Directors. I'm here this afternoon with Toby Perry, who has been leading a cross-divisional effort to advance the project to renovate 2955 Peralta Oaks Court. We, on the project team, affectionately call it IPON because our financial system of the naming convention that starts with a verb first. So improve Peralta Oaks North. So you might hear us call it IPON. That's what that is. So this item was previously shared at the September Board Executive Committee, and so we're happy to present it today. So a little bit of background, the Park District acquired the building in 2019 with the goal of meeting the Park District's need for public safety and administrative space. The board awarded an architectural contract in the summer of 2020. And since then, the project team has provided the board informational updates at the conclusion of each of the project phases. To date, we have provided an update summarizing the building program, the schematic and conceptual design, and today we are here to review the work done during the design development phase. This is the phase prior to beginning the construction documentation, or CDs. Design development is the phase where the information about what actual building systems needed are designed. So this is where we're really looking at the structural, electrical, mechanical systems, and the associated identified costs are then estimated. This information informs what costs associated with construction will be. So we call these the hard costs. Additionally, other costs associated at this point are identified. So these are costs associated with lead gold, the furniture, fixtures, equipment, and permitting. So cumulatively, all of these costs are considered the total project costs. When the building was purchased, we really were only looking at the costs associated with the building renovation. And we weren't really at that time contemplating, or we didn't have an understanding of what the total project costs were going to be. So today, as we present the end of this phase, we've estimated the cumulative project costs, and that's what we're going to share. We're sharing a lot, but that's also one of the things we're sharing. So I wanted to just remark on these costs and let you know that we've shared them with the general manager and the executive team. And we know that they are in line with comparable renovation projects in the region. We know that they are significantly less than the current market costs of a new building, that the renovation of this building to meet public safety essential services standards has only a minimal impact on the renovation costs due to seismic upgrades that are required for any use of the building. And based on 10 years of searching and staff's understanding of current market conditions, there is no less expensive option that is likely to be available to house all the public safety and administrative functions. So in addition, staff analysis of the Park District's financial position and outlook confirms that these project costs are within the scope of available resources, including general fund reserves, unspent promissory note funds, and issuance of new debt. So before I turn it over to Toby, I wanted to acknowledge and thank all of the staff who've worked on the project so hard to date, and also thank the Board of Directors for your support in providing input specifically on the new boardroom, but of course the whole project. So we're excited to share with you this milestone that includes some pretty cool renderings. And so now I'll just turn it over to Toby.
Thanks, Lisa. And as Lisa just said, I'm here to share a lot. So let me bring up. Or I could just sit down on my knees. Let's see here. There we go. Here, I'm just looking how to advance slides on that scrolling. There we go. I think so. Let's hope so. All right. Good afternoon, board members, President Coffey, General Manager Landreth, and members of the public. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Thank you.
We're paused for technical reasons.
Good times, good times. If I was just sitting at home at my desk, I'd be all dialed in.
There you go.
Okay, here we are. Where was I? All right, well, thank you all. My name is Toby Perry. I'm a project manager in design and construction, and I'm managing the improved Peralta Oaks North project, or as was just mentioned, IPON. I'm excited to be here in front of you today to provide an update on the project. Before you hear on this slide is a rendering of how the renovated building will look when it's complete. As Lisa mentioned, we've been hard at work on this project since 2019 when we first acquired the building. We started by identifying a building program. This program is based on needs, not wants, current and future staffing, and is also based on best practices for public safety programming. In keeping with our environmental ethic, we determined that this building was to be built to LEED Gold standards. And then we also identified that this building would be the public facing building for the district, and as such includes a new boardroom. Following the development of the building program, we moved into conceptual and schematic design, which included which staff and departments would go on which floors and how much square footage would be devoted to each function. We met individually with board members, finance, building services, reservations, and public safety to design the boardroom and lobby, and then determine what other non-public safety staff would move into this building. And that's going to be reservation, clerk of the board, and human resources staff. And then most recently, we've completed design development. And this phase of work provided further detailed design of building functions. And that's what we're going to share with you today. So here in front of you, you can see all the specifics for the building that we've been working on, and there's quite a lot there. We've decided now what we want, and now we have to detail it out to be built. So the architects are managing a team of consultants, including electrical, mechanical, structural engineers, landscape architects, and communication system experts. Each consultant continues to work to design how each system is going to function within the building. As an example of this, with respect to windows, we've decided that all the windows that are part of the office that are currently single pane will be replaced by double pane. Conversely, the atrium windows, which are single pane, and part of a non-conditioned space, those are just going to have the film on the windows replaced. As another example, as the elevators, as the elevators were evaluated, it became clear that those needed to be replaced. So this is the type of evaluation decision-making that's gone on as part of design development. And then I think, as Lisa said, the next phase is to develop the construction documents. So each of the consultants will work to detail these out to meet the district's goals. And then the cost estimate, which I'll be sharing with you all later, was based on this design development and the decisions that were made as part of this phase of work. So over the course of the next 4 slides here, I'm going to quickly walk you through each of the floor plans for the building. And just in case you're having trouble seeing the legend, blue indicates public safety only spaces. Green is the district administrative office spaces. Tan are spaces that all staff can access, and beige is public space. So here we are in the basement of the building, which is public safety space for property and evidence. And then the white there is also parking. And just as a reminder, all of the parking within the building footprint will be limited to district staff and board members. No member of the public will be able to park within the building footprint. Then going up to the next floor, this is the first floor of the building, which is where you'll enter as a member of the public, or if you're non-public safety staff. The beige and tan area in the center is where the lobby, that atrium space is, and then the new boardroom and EOC meeting rooms will be. The green in the lower left-hand corner is where our reservation staff will be. And then that little square of green in the center of the kind of the lobby area, that's where reception will be. The blue, that kind of island of public safety is where the public safety's volunteer coordinator will be. And then the large green space, kind of the upper third upper in the image, is where the closed session room is, and then where the office space for the clerk of the board and human resources will be. Going up now to the second level, the floor above the lobby, you can see it's almost entirely blue for public safety. The one tan area in the lower left corner is an all district lunchroom. And then out front from there is a terrace with a great view that will be open to all staff. It probably goes without saying, but we work closely, very closely with public safety on the layout and design for this floor and the floor above that I'm about to go through. So this is the top floor of the building, the level 3. And again, it's almost entirely devoted to space for public safety, with the only exception being an all-staff fitness room. Including a fitness fitness center in the building for public safety personnel is really consistent with best practices nationwide. And in addition, the district currently provides a fitness room for public safety staff that's also utilized by other non-public safety staff. We believe this fitness room is simply a replacement for the current one that's provided. I also want to just highlight that public safety staff will have their own lockers that are separate from the changing rooms and restrooms that other staff will have access to. So before you hear, you'll see the total project cost. As I mentioned earlier, we've developed this project cost estimate based on the design development phase of work. But in fact, we've estimated project costs at the conclusion of each phase of design, programmatic, schematic, then now design development. And the costs have stayed relatively consistent and have actually come down incrementally over that process as we refine the design and know more, have more knowns. I'd also like to emphasize that we've continued to look for opportunities to cost save at each phase. So the cost for the project shown here really incorporates this value engineering as the project design is continued. As Lisa mentioned, the major cost of the renovation is due to the structural and seismic dampers and retrofit. In addition, needs total system upgrades of HVAC, electrical, and siding, and needs to be structurally reinforced due to its proximity to the Hayward Fault. The California Building Code has changed since the building was, not surprisingly, since the building was first constructed. And due to the building's proximity to the fault, increased seismic reinforcements are required to meet the current code. And then again, getting back to some of the cost changes since we really first acquired it. The anticipated cost for the project has changed since we first purchased it. When we purchased the building, there were certain assumptions made that the estimate at that time didn't contemplate, including soft costs. It didn't contemplate construction management during construction. We think there's a regional cost difference between the estimators where they were estimating work and where this building is located. Certainly there's been cost escalation that wasn't foreseen at that time. And then furniture, fixture, and equipment wasn't included. And then lastly, LEED Gold wasn't part of the design at that point. And LEED Gold building has not only construction cost implications, but also has additional costs during design. So those are some of the reasons why it's changed since we first acquired the building. We have been working closely with finance to develop a funding plan to fund this project. We plan to utilize the remaining promissory notes and then add a mixture of general funds and new promissory notes. We've currently encumbered approximately 3.1 million in design and engineering, and the existing project budget is 3.25. And then we'll need to increase the amount to accommodate added scope for design consultants for work associated with solar and interior design and permitting work associated with the city's creek protection plan. So we'll be coming back to you very soon for that. So one more slide here before I turn to some pretty pictures. So before you use our current timeline, obviously we're here before you today, September 20th, and then next month, we're going to be hosting a neighborhood outreach meeting. And then in November, we plan to submit 50% construction documents to the city of Oakland for permitting. Next year, we will complete our construction documents and go out to bid. We hope to award a construction contract by the end of next year and then begin construction the first part of 2024. And then if all goes according to plan, we'll be able to occupy the building sometime before the end of 2025. We will be coming back to you several times for board approvals. The first of which is the one I just mentioned. We'll be coming back to you probably next month to amend the design consultant contract. And then next year, we'll be back first to award a construction management contract in the early part of 2023. And then later in the year, as I mentioned, to finally award the construction contract. So I'll share just some renderings, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions you all have. So I'll try to kind of orient you from where these images are kind of showing. This is from the center of the lobby. As you walk into the lobby, currently there's actually a staircase that takes you down to the basement. But because it's kind of right in the middle of the floor, we've moved that staircase away so that it creates a much more inviting open lobby. And so that's what you're looking right there from the center of the lobby into what will be the future boardroom. Now, if you were standing in that same spot, you were just standing and instead turn to your right, instead of looking straight ahead, you'd be looking at where the reception is. And you can see there's kind of a two-sided, well, hopefully you can tell that there's a two-sided reception there. One side of the two directions is facing the front entrance of the lobby. And so that door just kind of right on the edge of the image there, you can see is where the front door to the building is. And so if you walk in as a member of the public, the first thing you'll see and you'll be greeted by is a member of our reception team. Now, standing in that same spot and looking straight to the left, you'll see some more doors that door on the left will take you to reservations. And so the idea being that if you're a member of the public and you come into the building and your desire is to make a reservation, you'll be greeted by reception. You'll say, hey, I'm here. I'm interested in camping at Anthony Chabot. And they'll say, why don't you go over there through that door and talk to reservations, and they'll be there to greet. There'll be somebody there in reservations to greet a member of the public coming in. And then on the right is a door that would access the public's volunteer outreach coordinator, person with public safety. And then you can see here, there's some opportunity. There's great wall space for wayfinding and posting of Park District imagery and whatnot. And there's a lot of space in this lobby, and we'll be working with public affairs and creative design throughout this next several months to really come up with a good plan for signage and displays in this lobby space.
Slipping the board picture in on this was a neat trick.
This again is just kind of zooming in. This is if you were to kind of step foot inside the boardroom and take a look. The dais will have access to it from not from the boardroom area, but actually from the back hallway. So that's going to be a change in the new boardroom, consistent with kind of best practices for boardroom design. Just some, so the next several images are just from different areas of the building. This one is from the 3rd floor. This would be the hallway that's kind of out in front of the where the fitness room is planned for. So just here you can see the fitness room, and then just kind of some open space for congregation or for sitting and answering emails and whatnot. And then this next image is just the same place, but from the opposite angle. Really here, just trying to give you all a sense for what we think this building will look like. Here's an image of the future all-staff lunchroom on the 2nd floor. And then this is just some more kind of typical administrative office space and what the look and feel will be for that. I believe that is the last one, and back here to the front. So that is what I had to share. So happy to answer questions if you have them.
Remind me, when was this building first constructed?
Not constructed.
Approximately 1980.
1980.
Yeah.
Just one quick question.
Yes.
Have we done the seismic studies of the land there, of the building?
Yeah, so it's not so much seismic studies. The work that needs to be done is known, and now the structural engineers are in the process of developing designs to meet the building code.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. Members of the board, questions or comments? Director Lang.
Thank you. We had a chance to see this at executive committee. And I'm glad to see the figures didn't increase since that time. I may say.
The price was good for a week.
1 week. Okay. Very good.
So, but I had, and I appreciate the presentation and the renderings. And I see I had looked at the boardroom dais incorrectly because it is elevated and it's behind an enclosed area. So I hadn't seen that before. So I have a couple questions about the seismic protections. I thought that some seismic work had been done on this building by the people who owned it the time, before we bought it. And so I'm wondering if that was true. And then I'm wondering about the ability of people in these two buildings to get out of the parking lot, besides going down our usual route, if there indeed is a Hayward earthquake that prevents that exit.
Yeah, so first, with respect to the seismic upgrades, my understanding is that some seismic work was done. And in part because it's essential services, there is an even greater need for seismic work. Regarding the access, there will be an emergency access exit point from the upper portion of the parking lot that public safety will utilize in emergency. And so that would provide that secondary exit. It's a requirement for this building that it has another exit. And that is what's being designed.
All right, and that's the place that people in this building could also exit?
Sorry?
That's the location that people who are in this building could also exit?
No, so that would be it would be secure. We need to keep it secure for public safety in that emergency to get in and out. So I can't speak to what contingency plans there are for emergency on this property.
Okay, well, so, I mean, we're right over the fault, right?
Pretty close.
So, so I just need some information
Okay.
about how people can get out of these buildings. And I would assume it would be the same access or exit that we make out of the northern building. But you can give me some information on that. Otherwise, we're stuck in this building, right? So,
Might be safer.
yeah.
Any other board comments or questions? Mine were answered at the exec committee, so I'm good. Director Waspy?
Yeah, thank you, Toby, for your report. How many people are going to be actually working out of that building?
How many people are going to actually be working about? I'll give you the approximate number. It would be about 40.
40?
About 40.
Okay. And then how many, what's the size and square footage?
Oh, sorry. I was thinking of district administrative staff. No, in terms of all staff, yeah, maybe Chief Chabro could give the number of public safety staff, and then we'll just add 40 to it. Yeah.
Thank you, Toby. Hi, good afternoon, Chief Chabro speaking. 75 sworn. We add about 20 communications personnel, and then our support staff. So roughly, you're talking 100, maybe, but there'll be less than that due to deployment points, and then you have the fire department. So my estimate's going to be somewhere around 125, roughly 100 people.
Yeah.
And then Toby, what's the size and square footage of the fitness room?
You know, I don't have that number off the top of my head. I could very easily get it to you, but I don't have it on the top of my
Okay,
head.
yeah, I'd appreciate that. And then, so I'm excited about the fact that we went to lead gold when we're only required for lead silver, but I'm also interested in the cost difference.
Okay.
What's the cost difference?
I could get you that information. I could talk to the architect about that. I don't know I don't know that it's been quantified. It's a little bit hard to quantify, but I can work with the architect to come back with something.
Huh, okay, I appreciate that.
Director Eccles?
Yeah, so first of all, I was interested in, I know we'd talked before when I met with you all, on the layout of the boardroom and whether or not there would be any natural lighting at all in the boardroom. And I think you said, well, if you open that partition between the boardroom and the lobby, then you'll have some light on the other side of the lobby. Do we think that meetings during the day when people are coming and going, that's a I mean, is that likely that we would be able to keep that partition open?
I don't think it's likely necessarily that during the meeting we'd have that partition open, but I want to clarify that the partition, there's also a partition between the boardroom and what will be the EOC room. And that partition would most likely be able to stay open. And off to the side of that room, there would be natural light coming in. So that's how we address that concern over natural light. We certainly anticipate that wall being open most meetings. I mean, in the off chance that there's some other meeting that needs that space, it could be, occasionally could be an issue, but for the most part, we plan on having that wall open and natural light coming in.
So it would be the equivalent of something like this wall open? Is that?
Yeah.
Or would it be smaller than that? Is it? What
No,
are
I
we
mean, that's
talking
the
about?
that's the wall, the equivalent of what the wall that would be open is. And then kind of on the far side of the closed session room is where those windows would be with this wall being open.
But this wall facing us would likely to be shut off in some type of sliding doors or something. Is that? what
That's
you're thinking?
correct.
Okay. Personally find that kind of depressing, but,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I think we'll have to, we'll learn more as we go through this too.
Absolutely.
We've had a lot of discussion about that because I know you all were very clear in the conversation about wanting to have natural light. So I do know, and to not feel, closed off.
well, yeah, I mean, I think if you are having like a 7-hour meeting like we do, and you're just facing a wall the whole time, well, I guess you've got people there, so that's good. Some people, we don't know how many people will come in this day and age, but yeah, we'll have some people there. But it does feel, for a park agency, it does feel very closed off from the natural world.
Just to touch on one of the things that general manager said, I think really one of the things on the design that we've really focused on, whether it's the boardroom or administrative office space, is making space that's flexible and adaptable to change over time and ways in which we want to operate the building in the future. This being an example where we'll try it. There's the possibility that we could keep the whole front end of the wall of the lobby, that whole entry to be open, so that it's kind of really an indoor outdoor feel, so that you're not walking in a door to get into the lobby, but really you're walking into an open space that's connected to the outside. So we think that in building in flexibility, it'll give us a good chance to make the building successful for kind of the long term.
Director Corbett?
Thank you very much. Just appreciate your explanation of what's going on so far. And I know we'll still have more things to talk about. And I know we will be having some local meetings for neighbors in the area to have an opportunity to come in, take a look at what we're doing and make their thoughts and comments about what's happening. So I'm just really looking forward to this. It's a fabulous opportunity to have such a great new park district and space for the wonderful employees that are now sort of squeezed in in the place now. So I'm looking forward to it. And I know there'll be, again, like I said, some public meetings coming up, and I'm looking forward to being at those. So thank you for all that extra work that you're putting in. And I know there'll probably be even some more additional thoughts and little twists and changes on how it's going to look, but so far it's looking good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Director Rosario.
Hi, thank you. I missed you at the last meeting, at the executive board meeting. But just to piggyback on Director Waspy, I have concerns about the fitness room and how many people actually use it. And with the premium of office space that we really need, it might be cheaper to have those as more office space, and then it might be cheaper to give everybody a membership to a fitness club or something. So that's my thoughts on that. And then also Director Eccles, just having been to the East Bay Mud boardroom, was not pleasant to be sitting in a concrete vault. And yeah, we want to avoid that situation as much as possible. So as much light as we can get, it would be wonderful. And then my last comment is, because of the size and complexity of this project, I think this lends itself ideally for and just the amount of money and a boost to the local economy. I think this lends itself to the possibility of a PLA, a project labor agreement. And so just because of the size and the boost of the economy to local union workers, and I think it's something we should consider. So, but wonderful work. Thank you. I expect, like I said in the executive committee, I expected it to be, in my mind, I thought it was going to be more closer to 100 million. So I'm glad it's not that high. And then also, I would like to see the difference between silver and gold.
Yeah, we can get you that.
So thank you all very much.
And I'd like to see the difference between gold and platinum. But if it's too much trouble to pencil that out, don't spend a lot of time on that. But that's the thing that popped into my head first.
Okay.
There's,
I would just say that there's certain limitations about the building. You know, if you start with a brand new building and you're siting it, there's a lot of opportunities to meet the specific criteria for LEED. Because this is a building sited where it is, you lose out on some opportunities, you know, things like connection to public transportation and there's certain areas of LEED that we can't achieve certain points. So my first thought on the platinum is just that there's certain limitations that wouldn't allow us to achieve that level of design.
Yes, fair enough. And I think really the thing to keep in mind was, regardless of what level of LEED you're at, really over the long term, what's most important or highly important is how it's operated, because you can have a platinum building, but if people are not sort of following the procedures you need to follow and keeping, and both in terms of, you know, what we all do in terms of recycle and things like that, but also your maintenance issues. If you're not doing it, then you're not achieving a true LEED gold or LEED platinum level anyway. So
that's absolutely correct, Director. And I think to that end, some of the LEED is associated with commissioning, and that's bringing in experts that are really, they are experts in setting up the building to achieve those types of outcomes. And so we have a firm on board for the design portion of that. And then we hope to be extending the contract for them to continue that through construction. And then ultimately we'll be working with our staff in the first years of operation to make sure that we get it dialed in, and we have the expertise to help us do that.
Great. It's great. Thanks.
Other board comments? And then we'll go to public comment if people in the Zoom room want to raise their hand. Director Waspy?
Yeah, just Director Rosario brought something up to me. So a PLA for $100 million project, I'm wondering what percentage of that project, have you figured this out yet, is going to go to design, construction management, permitting, things like that, some that don't really count.
With respect to
they obviously count, but I mean,
with respect to PLA or just a
with
different,
respect to anything, I mean,
Well-
overall, if it's going to cost 100 million, how much is it going to cost? Design work, construction management, stuff
Yeah.
that's not bricks and mortar.
yeah, I can bring that slide back up, but approximately 70 million is construction contract.
70 million.
Is the construction, is what the anticipated construction contract, and then the balance of the 19 million is construction management, soft costs,
Thank you.
FF&E.
If I could jump in, I would just say that 70 million to me, I think should be considered for a PLA. So I'd like to add that as well.
Well, my understanding is both county building trades are going to approach us for an overarching PLA, as they have with many other public agencies. So that'll be addressed one way or the other. Any other comments? Madam Clerk, are there public comments or requests?
No, I don't see any. I thought I heard Director Corbett, but no. No, I don't have anyone with their hands raised. President Coffey.
All right, well, with that, are we finished with this presentation?
I think we're finished. Thank you.
Thank you, very thorough. Good job. That brings us to General Manager's comments.
No presentation today. That was it.
Any comments?
No comment.
Funny stories? Never mind.
Not for the microphone.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, Ann. Council, any announcements from closed session?
No closed session announcements.
Board committee reports. Directors, are there any need to augment the minutes from Finance Committee, Natural Cultural Resources?
I actually had a couple of comments.
Director Rosario.
Yeah, thank you. I had an opportunity to watch a couple of the natural cultural resources presentations on YouTube, and my favorite, but great information there. But I just had a couple of questions if I can find them. Regarding fish barriers. And I noticed there was a presentation by Joe Sullivan at one of the meetings, and I think that this is a great opportunity, because when I was the supervisor at Reinhardt Redwood, the debris removal, we would have at the time, who was the fish? Pete Alexander. We consult with Pete Alexander, and he would let us know which barriers we could remove, and or we didn't actually remove them all. We would take them down to a certain height. But I think this is a great possibility, or great opportunity for volunteers and youth organizations to help with some of that debris removal, because you can't use chainsaws or anything in the creek. It has to be done by hand. I think we should avail ourselves to those opportunities if it's possible. And I had we had a relationship with UC East Bay and some of the classes there who were interested in also doing that. So and also fish monitoring as well. So I just wanted to offer that, and then also I wanted to back or second Beverly Lane's observations around the need for storage for our archives. Brenda Montana did a great presentation. Her YouTube tour of the facilities was very eye-opening, and I really think we should consider reusing the computer lab and allowing the archives to expand into that space. I think totally makes sense. That room isn't used at all, I don't think. So, and then the space at Black Diamond, that needs to be fixed as far as air conditioning needs there, and then the archives, or getting a permanent location that's suitable for that. So those records are precious and I think vital to our identity and collection of history. And so I just wanted to say that. So, and I think that's it. But overall, well done on all the other committees. Thank you.
Beverly?
Yes, well, several of the minutes are natural and cultural resources. And I wanted to say that I think that I appreciate the level of detail for those, and in looking at finance as well, because what the board relies on are those committee minutes if they're not on that committee. And that's how we know what's coming up. So to have that level of detail, I think, was very helpful. And then just speaking for myself, I would like to have these minutes a little earlier than they appeared. Thank you.
Yeah, I would urge anyone who has not attended that meeting, do so, or I believe Brenda did email us a link to the video she prepared. So I would urge all who haven't seen it to see the video that Brenda prepared on our archive issues. Very well done. So with that, Board comments? Move to board comments. Is there anyone that needs to drop off and would like to go first or early? No? Okay. You would? Okay, so Elizabeth will go first, then I'm just going around the Zoom room. It'll be Director Eccles, Director Lane, Director Waspy, and Director Rosario.
All right, well, thank you very much. So let's see, since our last board meeting on the 7th of September, I met with staff, some of our staff on the Jewel Lake.
Can't hear you.
Oh, I can't hear me. I'm sorry.
Elizabeth, did you want to go? I'm sorry. Ellen, did you want to go early too?
Yes, please.
Okay, you'll go next then. Thank you.
Okay. So, yes, so first of all, on the 7th, I had a meeting with staff regarding Jewel Lake and some background on that project. On the 16th of September, I participated in the EPA 50th anniversary of the Clean Water Act, and this was just a fabulous event. I was so happy to participate in it. We had local, state, and regional and national figures there. We had the regional administrator from US EPA, Martha Guzman Chavez, as well as Radica Fox from the EPA, Supervisor Joya. We had the head of the state EPA, the Jelani Dotson, and a number of other folks. So it was really a fabulous event. And yeah, and of course our GM was there and our board president as well. It was really a great opportunity to reflect on how far we've come in the last 50 years and really sort of focus on the future going forward and the importance of not just combating climate change, but also really looking at equity issues. And the head of the state EPA commented that her North Star going forward is really looking at, how we can address these clean air, clean water issues in the context of equity. And so I found that very inspiring. And then, sorry. And then the next day on the 17th, attended the 50th anniversary of this Sierra Club San Francisco Bay chapter event with actually, 3 of these gentlemen here, Director Waspy, Colin, Coffee, and Dee Rosario were all there as well. And that was a very fun and inspiring event as well. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go next to Director Corbett, and then Director Lane, and then Director Waspy.
Okay. And I would say that day you were just talking about, there were so many events that happened on that particular Saturday. Everybody was busy going somewhere to see something. So I'm just going to mention a few places I've been. Also, also had a chance to go to the dinner up on Mount Diablo. And we had a great presentation by Director Lane about the work that they have been doing with land we're using for our district as well. But it was a beautiful night and it didn't get too cold. And there was a little bit of a sprinkle, but it was so nice to be with our friends over there at Mount Diablo. And that was on the 10th. And then on the 14th, I had the great opportunity to be invited to an Alameda County Mayor's Conference meeting because they wanted to just invite a few people who are elected in different positions and may have been involved in local government in the past, but I had the opportunity to hang out with mayors across the county. And of course, many of them always say great things about the Park District and how wonderful things are looking and how they impact their local cities and communities because of the land and the programs that we offer throughout the area. And then on the 16th, I had the opportunity to spend the morning for an hour and a half with the mayor of Alameda to go out and take a look at the land down by the old Naval Air Station. and talk with her about possibilities that were going forward on there and see what she thought about it, asking for her support. It was a beautiful day, a beautiful morning. What a great spot that will be once it's opened, and hopefully it'll be open soon, at least for some opportunities for people to take small hikes in that area. And let's see. And on the 17th, there were many events that happened, and I will just talk about one of them for so far. Our International Day at Lake Chabot. I know that Director Waspy will be talking about that from his district, but a great opportunity to talk to people from throughout the community, speaking about the background of their nationalities and their interest in protecting the space and land and working together. It was also another really great event that morning. And I think that's all I will present at this time, but thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ellen. Director Waspy.
Thank you. On September 9th, I attended the Hayward Area Recreation Park District's grand reopening of Fairmont Terrace Park. It's a great park, but of note, they had the ability to work with Alameda County and annexed 4 acres of the Fairmont Hospital campus. And it's a key piece of property because now they've opened this up. They've got a staging area. They've opened this up, and there's a perfect path of travel over Fairmont Hospital's portion of Fairmont Ridge till it gets to the point where we own it. And then theoretically can get right down to Lake Chabot. There's been talk for years and years and years. Joe Britton first thought about this, the supervisor at Lake Chabot many years ago, about when we talk about trying to get underserved communities into parks. If you live in Ashland or Cherryland or some of the real impacted communities in my area, in order to get there, you got to walk up Fairmont Drive, which is an interesting Grand Prix course of people coming down that hill going 65 miles an hour or more. And you walk on this unappealing sidewalk. You walk past a psychiatric hospital, which is run by the county, which many times lets folks out, and which is good, I guess, but it's scary in some cases. And then you get to walk past the juvenile hall, which is a very institution that's, it's not a park atmosphere. This would be a great route through there. I hope we can look into that sometime in the future. On the 17th, I attended, as Director Corbett mentioned, the United Nations International Day of Peace. And, Monaco and everyone has done a really, really good job of promoting that. We've been doing it for 6 years now. As you know, we put in a peace pole in the park. We've got a community now, many communities that come give testimonies of what their vision of peace is, how we can attain that. Martin Luther King Jr. Freedom Center kids come there and give these inspirational talks. It's a very inspirational event. We come together and then we meet, do a number of things that Mona dreams up, and they're all good. We exercise together, we hold hands and give a peace message or prayer or chant or whatever. And then we have a great meal that's prepared by a specialized community. This time, a Korean community made a beautiful, beautiful luncheon. It was a great, great day. We didn't achieve world peace, but we're still going to work on it. It was a great event. And, I'd like to, obviously Mona does tremendous amount of work and the public affairs staff does, but well, I'll tell you that Lake Chabot crew really, really did it up. They get thrown, everything gets thrown at them and they just respond. The place looked beautiful. Cleanup that they did, the support they give, and I wanted to shout them out all by name that day, but boy, we were on a schedule. And Jim, please, and Steve, please tell those guys they all did a great job, and it's really important that they're recognized. That night I went to the Sierra Club Chapter Awards dinner. It was great, a lot of fun, saw a lot of great old friends and colleagues. On the 19th, I attended the East Bay Mud, or yesterday, I attended the East Bay Mud Liaison Committee. Well, we'll leave it at that. And last evening also, I went to the Park Advisory Committee meeting and was did the director's chores of giving a little update on what was going on. Of note, I would like to congratulate the lifeguard services. All know lifeguard services ended this last Sunday for the season. It's their 13th season, 13th consecutive season without a drowning. So, when we talk about liability and we talk about settlements, boy, that's an incredible accomplishment, and under some lot of duress this year for some of those lifeguards. So I congratulate them. And in future stuff, boy, I'm hearing chainsaws in my backyard. I'm told it's up there on the pilot project. I'd love to get a park tour, and I know it's going to be dangerous, but I bet it's really not that dangerous. I'd love to go up there and see what they're doing because I think it's going to be a great project. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. We'll go to Director Rosario and then Director Wieskamp.
Great, thank you. Let's see, on the 8th and the 15th, I had the pleasure of attending the Leg Merit Breakfast Club. And on both those occasions, I got to meet some great contacts, I think possibly for the Park District. The first one was Jackie Lynn Ray of Clorox. She runs the government affairs. And she, as you know, Clorox is an Oakland based company. They have 9,000 employees nationwide with 1,000 employees in Oakland and 2,000 in Pleasanton. They have an R&D center in Pleasanton. But I thought I forwarded her name to the Regional Parks Foundation because I think she'd be a great addition to, if it's not her, but definitely Clorox would be a great addition to the Regional Parks Foundation board. And then on the latter meeting on the 15th, it was a live meeting, our first live meeting, and we got to meet the instructors for the Merit Cybersecurity class. And this is a 2-year program, certificate program, and they've been competing the last 5 years with there's a nationwide cybersecurity competition. And for the last 5 years, every year they've placed top 5. I mean, they're bumping heads with Stanford and Berkeley and all these other 4-year universities. And in the state of California, they enter a similar competition and they come out number 1. And so they're talking about developing an internship program. And I thought, God, it'd be great to have these young kids smart young kids from Merit to do some kind of internship with the Park District or even other agencies in the Park District. So so it's a great program. I mean, the instructor that headed it up, he did it pro bono to set it up, and they finally got staff on board to do it permanently. But it's a pretty amazing story. So hopefully, maybe we can take advantage of that. And then also on the 8th, I met with Jim Hansen of the CNPS and Norman Forrest of the Sierra Club regarding Roddy Ranch amendments. And that was a good meeting. We were able to advocate for some of their amendments. And then that was right before the executive board, also on the 8th. And then on the 10th, I attended the Save Mount Diablo Moonlight on the Mountain. That was wonderful as usual. Glad it wasn't cold, although we did need those blankets at the end. And it was nice to see our Board of Supervisor Diane Burgess, and so in person. And then attended the subcommittee meeting on the 13th of operations. Of note there, I just want to congratulate the Park District on getting the lead testing done throughout the Park District. Wonderful results. Hopefully we can keep that up. And then on the 14th, I attended the Alameda County Special Districts meeting, and there was several things of note. Stop Waste was the host, so they gave a nice tour, virtual tour of the facility, but also all the programs they do. And then Joanna Jin from BBK, you might know her. She gave us a lowdown on the Zolli versus City of Oakland. Has to do with franchises. I guess this stemmed out of the waste management contracts that the city had. So that's still in the courts, but she gave us an incredible rundown on what that entails. And I don't know if that's going to affect the Park District at all. Around franchise taxes are being challenged, saying that they're actually taxes and not a fee. So
They have good lawyers there.
yeah, your former company. And then also a thing of note from the AC was that they're going to be trying to incorporate possible incorporations for Castro Valley and Ashland and all those. So they're actually going to be doing studies on that and the possibility of incorporating those unincorporated. And then on the 16th, I attended the Contra Costa Annual Labor Awards Dinner, St. Mary's College. And that's where I was approached by someone inquiring about, would we be interested in acquiring a piece of property along the San Pablo Creek watershed? So I leave that to the folks in that ward. I encourage them to write a letter so that we know exactly, with details of exactly where it's at and why it's important. And then on the 17th, I had a very busy day. I attended the coastal cleanup at Martin Luther King Shoreline at Damon Slough. I think there was more litter in the street than there was actually on the marsh. I think we need to, I think there's a possibility. I mean, I'd like to see more coordination with the city of Oakland because there's so much litter as you approach the park. Like I said, I think there was more litter almost on the street. If there's a way we can coordinate that, we can maybe block off some of those streets so that we can actually clean them up. Because all that litter is eventually going to end up in our marsh anyway. So that would be cool. And then also coordination between, because there was 3 organizations in different spots. And we were constantly telling people, oh, you got to get back in your car and go over to the next gate or whatever. So, because there was us, Save the Bay, and there was another group. I can't remember. It was a private company. So that would be good, but good turnout. And then right after that, I went to Lake Chabot to attend the UN event. Got there just in time for the singing around the pole. Wonderful. And of course, a nice meal. Well done. That was, I mean, it really showcases the diversity of the Park District. And then right after that, I went to Judge John Sutter for the playground event that was held by Oakland Venue. What a great event. I mean, that place was jumping. I mean, everybody was dancing. They had a great hip hop band and everybody was dancing. And people were just having a great time. Tiffany Margalisi was there with her 2 kids. Jeff Manley was there with his 3 daughters, and got to meet staff, and everybody had a good time. And I think they've committed to doing those throughout the year next year, which is great. And then, and then the end of that day with the Sierra Club Awards Dinner, David Brower Center, those speeches, I think those were the best. I mean, every awardee, those are the best speeches I've heard in a long, long time, except for the ones at Lake Chabot. But incredible. And Mayor Bowders got one of the inaugural awards. And he turns out his real job, besides being mayor, he works with folks with PTSD and trauma. And I remember we were trying to work with a young man in DC who was leading veterans on long hikes along the Appalachian Trail, and he was trying to establish those. And I think we had tried to make contact with them, and he was willing to come out here to do something similar out here. And I talked to Mayor Bowders about it and said, would you be interested in developing a program of this? He said, yeah, just give me a call anytime. He's an avid hiker. He walks. He did the PCT in like a month or something. He's amazing, and something I think we should pursue for veterans and folks with facing trauma. So I think that was a great event. And then the East Bay Liaison Committee yesterday, even though our little humble boardroom here, I prefer this much better than theirs. But there were some excellent presentations by both staffs. And it's funny how geography, I mean, their tree mortality is, as Director Lane pointed out, was much smaller than ours and much more manageable, but they're willing to work with us. And then last night I attended the Oakland DD Coalition meeting, and we got the great presentation on the fish die-off at Lake Merritt. Tens of thousands of fish died, and it was just so happened someone was there monitoring the oxygen levels the day before and noticed that they had dropped to almost to like something like 0.5 parts per million, which is like a death zone. And sure enough, 2 days later, the fish started dying. So a lot of discussion there, and I gave that presentation to forward that to Matt Growell and Becky Tuden, and so maybe there's something we can all learn from that. And then the Oakland Kaiser Center, which is due to open next year, is the old convention center, and that's been long awaited. And Estuary Park, which is just north of the Brooklyn Basin and the Bay Trail, that's going to get started really soon too. So that's it for me. Thank you very much.
That's all.
That's all, folks. I think I need a vacation.
Director Wieskamp.
How can you follow up D?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, thank you very much for allowing me. Well, on the 8th, I attended the Local Agency Formation Commission, and one of the issues D already has mentioned, and that is the potential incorporation, 3 different scenarios for our unincorporated areas in the county. We had looked at that and we moved forward on it. And perhaps even more importantly, on Measure D, we had a study on changes that were important for our agricultural and wine production area caused by Measure D. And we had a study done and it came back with recommendations. So we recommended approval to the county for the measure they're putting on the ballot. We thought it was valuable and would be very helpful. A lot of scenarios that we looked at 15, 20 years ago, we didn't think about things that one of the expenses for a vineyard is every 15, 20 years, they have to dig it all up and start over again and wait for it to grow before it produces any wine. So there's a lot of expenses that we hadn't thought about. On the 13th, I attended the operations meeting, and I always enjoy those because there's such diverse items come before us. And then on the 13th, and I wasn't sure I was looking forward to the Tyler Ranch staging area opening. You never know with Sonol, but they seemed in a good mood. Our staff was there. We had police captains, a lieutenant, we had Brian, we had Lisa was there. It was a very friendly occasion, answering questions. People seemed to enjoy it. And I didn't have any complaints from anyone, which is truly amazing. And I got the opportunity to go to the very top of the peak. My sinuses did not like it. But let me tell you, if you get a chance, Dennis should never try to climb up that far. It is excruciatingly high. And I had a great driver. Her name is Neoma, a planner. And part of that, I really admired how she knew what to do and how to do it. And two other people in the car with me actually got up out on the peak, and their hair was blowing like mad, and they were enjoying it. That's where we need one of those panorama views. I did talk later in the week to Gordon Willie, and I said, you're going to have some of your people go over and try that climb. Just the first climb is all going to be open at first, but that one's pretty steep. One of the women in the car with me said that she had climbed in Nepal 20 years before, and that she was going to try to get back in shape so she could do this one. I said, more power to her. But I thought staff did a great job. And thanks very much for making it such a pleasant event for the Canolians. At the moment, I think they have some issues with the county access road, but hopefully they will talk to the county about that. It was suggested. I checked in with Pleasanton Ridge, which I like to do with Wayne. He said he was pleased to have the new addition to Pleasanton Ridge and that things were going well all along the ridge. And Gordon and I exchanged comments briefly this morning, and we said, aren't we glad it's rained? And he's hoping this is going to help the Ohlone, which is looking pretty dismal at the moment. But he said, all in all, things were going well at Mission Peak. And we talked about, Gordon and I always enjoy going to out in open space areas and driving around, and I get to hear what he thinks. And Gordon likes to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're both looking forward to the 29th when we're going to get to see Sunol open house for their redone visitor center. It's been put off a couple of times, but I'm sure they'll get a good turnout. And that's it. And Dee, I always appreciate hearing about all the things you attend, because I do not know how you have any home life.
Thank you. And I'll try to get through mine quickly. On the 7th, Beverly?
I have some board comments too.
Oh, did I skip?
It's kind of freewheeling here today.
Oh,
It's all right.
I am so, I
If
apologize.
you want to talk now, I could talk next.
No, go ahead, Beverly.
Thank you. Yes, I do have some board comments, and first committees. Attended the East Bay Mud Liaison, which was very interesting, and I was glad our stewards came and talked about Nature Check there, because East Bay Mud's one of our partners. Then there was Natural and Cultural Resources, which was a very full meeting and with lots of interesting things, and Executive Committee. Then I did attend our East Bay Leadership Council meeting via Zoom, and the president of the council now is Leo Scott, who is a member of a firm that's helped us with some of our Caltrans state negotiations for active transportation trails. And they announced one of the polls, which for California, in which they indicated that people were most concerned about the economy, with crime as a second item, and COVID was floating around there further down. And we had a chance to meet the new Contra Costa Water District GM. Then I did go to the Tyler staging area for a little bit. And, you and I talked about it, and I said, well, I just have to see what the staging area looks like.
They had mentioned that you had been there.
And so I got there, but I wasn't there long enough to take the ride up to the top, which I hope I'll be able to do sometime soon. And I did see Olivia.
Coffee hasn't spoken yet.
Board member.
I just want to pick up on something just so I can.
Chris, you need to move.
And then I wanted to thank Ashley Adams for coming and giving an update on how to contemporary ways to talk about Native Americans to the docent class that we had at our museum in Danville. They're doing a First Peoples program, and there were about 30 people there. So they really benefited from some of the research that our naturals have been doing, which I very much appreciated. Then I'm looking forward to going to the Sunol Visitor Center opening, the Olmsted event. And I'd like to go to the Greenbelt Alliance event if I could get a ride with somebody. So if anybody's going to that event, please give me a call. And then finally, several of us went to Moonlight on the Mountain, the Save Mount Diablo's big event, and it was indeed beautiful. Evidently, there was a full moon, but it was behind the clouds. So everybody was hanging out, hoping they'd see it, but they did not. And I had the chance to go up on the stage and not fall off and talk about the Foley property.
Oh.
And announce it. You know, they were very eager to have it announced as a major achievement in terms of access to the mountain during their 50th anniversary event, which is what this was. And so I took the opportunity to say that we had been working on it for decades with Bob Doyle very active. And then in the recent negotiations, Christina Kelchner and Mike Reeves pulling it together with an expectation of funds so that our opportunity will not be in vain. And with that, I want to take the opportunity to say goodbye to Christina Kelchner. I think this is her last meeting before she moves on to new challenges, and thank her for 8 years of sterling work for the district as an attorney and as an AGM and many other things. And so I hope you'll join with me in giving her an applause.
It certainly will.
Miss her, we'll miss her a lot.
Absolutely.
And with that, I'll pass it to the president.
Okay, so as a preview, I was going to ask Christina to come up and let us all say goodbye, but let me get through my list so that's done. Otherwise, I'll forget to call on myself. I'm capable.
Oh, come on.
So September 7, I also attended Cultural Natural Resources Committee. That evening, I attended a webinar put on by a group of Bay Trail enthusiasts called Bay Trail Confidential. And the reason I attended was because they were focused on the San Pablo Bay section of the Bay Trail for that particular program. On the 8th, I attended the executive committee meeting. And on the 9th, I had the pleasure and excitement of being able to, well, let me back up. I was invited by the Contra Costa Transportation Authority to attend a tour of the Gomentum facility. That is the facility that uses City of Concord, parts of the Naval Weapons Station, and part of the Park District's segment of the Naval Weapons Station. And it's like a ghost town. There's lots of buildings and roads and crossroads. And the Transportation Authority set up this program out there where commercial tech companies can test their autonomous vehicles. And this is very advanced stuff. And I think it's the largest secure testing facility in the West, I was told. And they had invited Secretary Buttigieg to take a tour of this facility. And so I had the pleasure at their invitation to attend a 3-hour bus tour of these autonomous vehicle testing sites. And in the end it was my job to explain the future park to the secretary. But for 3 hours, I got to sit on a bus with Secretary Pete, right, in the front, right across. There were only about 10 of us on the bus with him. And I was pure fanboy. I was just starstruck the whole time. Congressman Garamendi was on the tour. And without my knowing he was going to do this, he at one point just pointed to me and he said, I believe Colin has, the park district has some park district projects that I'd like to talk to you about it. About why don't you describe them to the secretary? And I was just like, blah, 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 blah. I think I managed to talk about the Bay Trail gap that we will apply for funding, and Iron Horse and Marsh Creek. So that was a lot of fun. On the 10th, I attended Moonlight on the Mountain. Also enjoyed it. On the 12th, I had a meeting set up by Eric with the new assembly member in East County, Lori Wilson. So we spent an hour or so touring Big Break and talking about the Park District, and also talking about how the state can help us with funding various projects. I attended by YouTube the Ops Committee on the 13th. On the 14th, I attended the quarterly Contra Costa Watershed Forum meeting. I also that day attended a City of Hercules get together on their Bayfront, at which to talk about their Bayfront development, at which the Bay Trail will be a prominent feature. On the 16th, I also attended the EPA tour and press conference celebrating the Clean Water Act, and along with Director Rosario, attended that evening the Contra Costa Labor Council's annual dinner. On the 17th, I did Coastal Cleanup Day at Radke Martinez. And then that evening also attended the Sierra Club Brower dinner. And yesterday had the pre-board meeting with the Deputy General Manager. I'm going to turn to Director Rosario to close the meeting, but before we do that, Christina, I too just wanted to say what a pleasure it's been working with you, both as a lawyer with the district and as head of ASD. And I've taken lots and lots of very good guidance from you. I have a lot of fun working with you, even when you tell me I'm wrong, which you occasionally do, and I really appreciate it because you're usually right. And I've always felt fairly collegial with you based on our similar legal backgrounds. So I just wanted to extend my appreciation, and we will miss you and wish you well up in Portland. Anyone else?
Sure.
And Ann.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, I think as a lawyer, I think you all amazed us on our first trip to DC. Just your breadth of knowledge and the way you present yourself, and the fact that you knew everything. That was, and I still owe you a dinner. I got to figure that out. And then, and as AGM, I think for someone who had not really supervised a huge group of people before, I thought you've done a very incredible job in putting that team together and leading it through COVID and to the present. So we are going to miss you, and good luck to you in your new endeavors. I think you'll be a superstar wherever you go. Thank you.
Ann?
You know, Christina, I never looked upon you as a lawyer. That's not a bad thing. I looked upon you as someone who
Thank you, Ann.
No, to me, your prime purpose was getting things done in a very collegial way, working with staff so well and with board members. And we are not always easy to get along with. I think we try, but we all have such diverse views and expectations of when things are going to get done. And you managed to handle that beautifully. Hopefully you're going to have lots of rain up there in Portland. I lived in Oregon when my husband went to state at Oregon State. And if you ever get a chance, go to the city of Alsea, which is on the way to the beach, where it rains practically every day of the year, and you'll see lots of rain. But enjoy yourself, and I know you will do a terrific job. You really impressed me as a very good supervisor, and that you treated we who are supposedly the directors very well. So thank you very much. I really respect you.
Dennis?
Yeah, well, thank you, Christine. It's been a pleasure knowing you and working with you and you know, as Director Rosario said, boy, you knocked it out of the park in Washington, DC, and I sure appreciate that. And I've always admired you because of that. And I also admire the fact that the one time we ever really argued or disagreed on something, and it was a closed session, so I can't describe it, I can work around it. It had something to do with a master developer somewhere, and I said, oh, you're bully. That'll never happen. It happened just like you said it would, and thank you for not kicking me or laughing when I told you so. But you did tell me so, and you were right. So happy trails to you. Enjoy life.
Thank you.
One, another thing too, because I think it's important to remember some of the projects that you worked on, and there were many more, but I want to mention two. And one is the negotiations you had with the railroad, so that we finally set up ways that we could cross the tracks and communicate with them. And as we all know, they really like to talk to attorneys, and they may have thought you were just a sweet blonde coming to talk to them, but little did they know how well you could negotiate. So we really appreciate that achievement. And for myself, the work that you did on the Burrell property, in moving that to the point that it now is, I think pretty much done. And there are many others. And so we just appreciate all you have done and are so glad that you had this time with us at the district.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. It is certainly bittersweet for me. The last 8 years have been an absolute honor and a pleasure. I will never forget the first time that I came and presented right here to all of you was on the Union Pacific, and you gave me a standing ovation. And I thought, where in the world can you be a lawyer and get a standing ovation from elected officials? That I have landed in the right place. So I was attracted to the district because of the district's reputation throughout the East Bay as being a serious player and an agency that can get things done and good things for the community. And I came to the district. It sealed the deal was meeting all of you, the board members, and just seeing the collegial approach that you all had and your deep commitment to the mission of the Park District. And that has been true from day one and all the way through. So yes, the projects, Thurgood Marshall has been one that's near and dear to my heart. Worked on that for 8 years and finally got the deed and got the naming so that we can help to tell the story of the Port Chicago 50. So it has really been an honor. I'm returning to my roots. My family's in Oregon and Portland, and I will be returning to being a counsel, an in-house counsel for the Port of Portland, and really looking forward to that. But I will be back, and Dee, I will take you up on your dinner. I'll be off the clock, so we could maybe have, a beer together. That would be great. And it's just been such a pleasure working with all of you. And you will be in very good hands with Lisa Gorgon, acting in my stead. And one of the things I'm probably most proud of is the ASD team and the way that merger of so many departments has come together to make a cohesive team. So you'll be in very good hands with the leadership of that team. And thank you all for the opportunity.
Thank you, Christina.
I think that we should give her a standing ovation as her she had it on her first meeting and she should get it on her last.
Glad to stand up. Oh, God, yes. Yay, team. Enjoy Portland.
That was a good touch. Thank you. Okay, we will adjourn the meeting, but I'm going to ask Director Rosario to close us out.
Yes, I had learned the passing of one of our dear colleagues' mother, and I saw it on Facebook, and then and she sounded like our very own Ann Casabon's mother passed away. And I just wanted to express that just the description that Ann has given me and what I've seen on Facebook from on her, she must have been one heck of a woman. And someone definitely I can see it in you. She was a rebel. And I just wanted to close in honor of your mother, Betty. And would you like to say a couple words about your mom?
Well, thank you, Director Rosario. Ann Casabon, Acting Assistant General Manager of Public Affairs. My 96-year-old mother, Betty, got a better offer. And the same age as the Queen, and 5 days later, the Queen said, well, if Betty's not here, I'm going to. But Director Waspy, you always asked about my mom. My mother was a peace activist and was arrested a total of 33 times for demonstrating at the Livermore lab. And when she was 60 years old, she called each one of her 5 children and asked if we would be okay with her being arrested and what we thought. And we were all supportive. My husband, who was a Berkeley police officer at the time, said, Mom, I don't care, just don't come to Berkeley. So the lab does a great job of educating people on what's going to happen when they're arrested. And they serve coffee and they have prayer service, and employees come out and they join the protesters and then they go back in. And my mother took it very seriously and, was very respectful of law enforcement, didn't like it when people kind of floundered, and thanked the officer. My mother, whose name was Betty Watson, what happens is they put you on a bus and then they call your name because they're going to process you. And as she's sitting there, the officer says, Belly Walson. And my mother says, you forgot to cross your T's. And I've gone and got arrested and I don't even get to hear my name called right. So anyway, we are going to have a celebration of life. It'll be dinner and a show. And my mother is now with my dad. So thank you very much.
Please accept the condolences from the board. And
Absolutely.
thank you.
So we are adjourned in Betty's memory.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.